kuba sasibumbene singamaKristu. Sasibumbene sithandaza, sikhala ezinkonzweni, kungekho nkonzo itheni inkonzo zifana zonke, ngoba lokuqala ngamaKristu ninto enye. Akuthiwa lona ungenaphi ungenaphi, nithandaza nibe yimbumba, uThixo asimamele. Nyani ilizwe lethu lasho lakhululeka. Let's go back, sibuyeni sibambaneni, sithandaze, ngoba kuthiwa ngelizwi zonke izinto ziyenzeka. Sijonge ilizwi likaThixo, singonqeni ukufunda iBhayibhile. Abantwana bethu sibafundele iBhayibhile, sihlale nabantwana bethu sibe nemithandazo yangokuhlwa, khona ukuze athi nomntana usesitratweni acinge uba ekhaya ajike, ngoba kaloku izinto esizenzayo singamaKristu singamanyundululu. Izifo ezise-South Africa zingumangaliso, siwesi khona esi sale COVID. Kodwa sawuthi esi sifo zesibe siyaphela, sibambane ngamqhelo omnye singamaKristu. Indlu kaThixo singayindwendweli, siye kuba siphethe imithwalo yelizwe lethu, siyothandaza, simcela uThixo. Singabi namaxesha ngalo lonke ixesha umuntu afumene ngalo ixesha lokuthandaza. Uhamba emotweni wakho uthetha noThixo, use-ofisini yakho uyabhala uthetha noThixo, uphumile uhamba phandle usendlini yakho. Masimbizeni uThixo ngamaxesha wonke. Indlebe yakhe ayivalekanga uba ngasiva, amehlo wakhe avulekile uyabona uThixo. Masisondeleni bantakwethu, sithathe izikrweqe zakwaThixo ngumthandazo. Izikrweqe zakwaThixo lilizwi lakhe, lilizwi likaThixo. USathana usikrobele thina into kokuba sinjantoni na, ngoba kaloku uSathana usoloko efuna into ezawudisturba ipeace kaThixo. Never, we cannot allow umuntu esamwisayo emnqamlezweni into kokuba makanyathele phezu kwethu. So yisamaKristu, why should we fear? uThixo akalifuna ibhetyebhetye, uThixo akalifuna igwala. Masomeleleni, siqine emthandazweni. Uba uThixo akuphendula namhlanje, ikhona uThixo imini yakhe azawuphendula ngayo. It's not that uThixo akeva, uyasiva. Masincedeni bazalwane, sijonge emva, sicela abamama babethandaza benyuka intaba. UKristu ngenye imini wahamba wanyuka intaba eyothandaza, wathi mayigqithe le ndebe. Zangathi mayisuke le nto eza kwenzeka kuye, wathi mayigqithe. Nathi ke bazalwane masimcele uThixo mayigqithe le COVID elizweni lethu. Makagqithe lo bhubhane, mazigqithe izinto zenhliziyo zokunyolukela into zasemhlabeni, ngoba iproblem yethu ngoku sinyolukele into zomhlaba esizawuzishiya. Kodwa uthi uThixo eyona nto nexabiso yimisebenzi yokholo, kukuthwala umnqamlezo ngengqobheko. Nothi into yoba ngoba ezi zinto sizawuzishiya, kodwa uThixo akayindawo yena. Let's go back to seek God's face. Ngawo onke amaxesha. Let's pray without ceasing. If even izinto they don't look favorable for us, uza kusiphendula uThixo. uThixo oqhuba kade, uThixo nenceba. Ngelizwi likaThixo nomthandazo sakuyisa bazalwane. Masibumbaneni, sithandazeni, sicele kuThixo for ilizwe lethu. Singoyiki, siyazi uba nale into iyegqitha. Ngegama likaYesu Nkosi Yesu Kristu, amen. Let us pray. Bawethu onamandla onke, isewe Nkosi yethu enguYesu Kristu, wena ungumdali wezinto zonke zomhlaba. Ngokuhlwa nje ndisola phambi kobuso bakho, ndisondeza imithwalo yabantwana bakho base-South Africa. Ndisondeza Thixo namandla amakhulu izinto ezinzima. Noko bawo kunzima ngoku. Noko sinayo imithwalo ngemithwalo, kodwa ngoku kunzima. Siyakhala kuwe bawo, siyive moya oyingcwele, ngoba Yesu langa lokulunga xa ilizwe lethu litshabalala liphela. Abantwana bethu bayifumana phi na enye iSouth Africa. Ngena phakathi kwenhliziyo zethu, ulawule ngaphakathi uxolo. Sibiza uxolo kwilizwe lakho. Ngoba imfazwe zakaloku njena azizusenzela nto. Singenalo uxolo siyonto. Sicela usiphe uxolo singabantwana bakho, ndiguqele ezinyaweni zakho, nzulu yemfihlakalo, ndiphakamisa izandla kuba kungokona kwethu sekunjenje bawo. Ndicela uxolo ndiphakamisa izandla ndithi sixole izono zethu njengabaxolo basonayo. Moya ndinoyingcwele yehlaba ukwilizwe lakho, unkcenkceshele umoya oyingcwele, udestroye whatever is destroying your country in Jesus' mighty name. Thank you, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Enkosi kakhulu mama, masithabathe one verse siye ku-Prof. Kuyabanda kakhulu namhlanje. I don't want to bore and waste your time today. Ubanda ndiyayazi nokukhupha isandla ngapha kwengubo, it's very cold. But let us take just only one song andizuyigqiba siye ku-Prof. I hope nimamele le ngoma ithi wazidala into zonke Thixo. Prof, you can ascend to the podium. Namhlanje si-invite uProf. This is a platform where we talk about issues, different issues, but today because of the so many myths and distorted information, abantu abathi xa befaka i-vaccine they feel into yobana ngathi kukho i-magnet apha engalweni ini. I felt it is important for us to arrange expertise to come and address us about the COVID and the vaccine. So we invited to Prof. I told you that the Department of Health from SG ilapha ikhokhelwa ngu-Mr. Ntwane. Ngexesha elifanelekileyo Mr. Ntwane, he will just introduce ukuba uhamba nabani na, nabo bakhona, we can ask questions, zonke i-fears esinazo sibuze siqonde about i-COVID singabi naqhala. Prof, you can take over, unmute and ascend. Thank you, Prof.
Mandibulele mongameli, ndibulise kuye wonke umuntu okhoyo apha. Ndiyabona kukho abantu abaninzi endibaziyo abalapha. Abanye from the church, abanye from the health sector. So right at the end, when time comes for discussion, I do hope that everybody who's here will make a contribution to add to my modest contribution, which I'm going to make now. I also realize that it's not everybody who is here who speaks isiXhosa. So I will address the webinar in English. There may be instances where I speak isiXhosa, but it will be to expand on something that I have already expressed in English.
That's okay, Prof.
Yabulela kakhulu, and thank you very much for this opportunity to talk on a topic that's very, very important for the world, for our country, and for ourselves as individuals and families. My talk, as already explained by the moderator, is on social perspectives of the COVID-19 pandemic and the vaccines. So I'm going to make an introduction, which is not going to be long, and then an input on the pandemic itself and some of the social implications, and then an input on the vaccine, after which I shall conclude. It is now almost 18 months since we had the onset of this pandemic in 2020, early 2020. And in South Africa, it hit us in March 2020, leading to the first lockdown that we had towards the end of March 2020. This was declared as a pandemic by the World Health Organization because it affected the globe as a whole. It was not just an epidemic that was occurring sporadically in various areas, but an all-embracing pandemic that has engulfed the whole world. A novel coronavirus was found to be the cause of the new disease. I will come back to that because I think it's important, even though there's a repetition of this, but it's important that we continue to explain that there is a virus that is causing this. Like in the origin of the HIV and AIDS, this was attributed to various conspiracy theories, and it still continues to be attributed to different causal factors, that is, the pandemic itself. You will recall that even with HIV and AIDS, there were lots of thoughts, ideas, and expressions as to the origin of that particular disease. And the same thing is applying to COVID. The pandemic has expressed itself as not just a disease that affects human beings physically, but it has also expressed itself in the social, economic, technological, environmental, and various other parts of our lives as people. It has indeed fully subscribed to the broad definition of health as not just the absence of disease, but the cultural, religious, political, educational, all social and economic well-being of the people. So the well-being that is comprehensive is our health, not just the absence of disease. And COVID has shown that, as I will explain later on. The social aspects that are affected by this disease include our cultural, as I've expressed, the religious or faith, the political, the educational, the psychological, etc. The pandemic and its management affects every level and aspect of human life. It affects the individual, the family, the community, the broad society, a home, a village, a region, a country, and the globe as a whole. The non-medical prevention or the initiatives that are taken to deal with that, like social distancing, masks, hand washing or sanitization, do not just affect the individual, but society as a whole. How they play out also depends on the social and economic status of the individual. If you wash your hands and sanitize, and you don't salute or greet a person with a handshake, a cultural obligation that has been there for years, that already distances you from the individual. The social distance that we keep without hugging, without close coming, with masks in our faces, affects the way human life has been run for years. Similarly, quarantine, isolation, hospitalization, lockdowns, etc., all have an impact on the social well-being of the individual and those associated with her or him. They all arouse anxiety, fear, worry, depression, and all sorts of mental and social impacts that can be held with a disease. They make demand on the individual and family resources. An unknown threat to life and a new phenomenon gives rise to a situation of fear of the unknown. Various theories to explain the situation have spread like wildfire. At the same time, various solutions are proposed and recommended. Some have associated the pandemic with the end of life and the end of the world as we know it. One of the preventive measures that has faced the same fears, anxiety, and conspiracy theories is the vaccine program. The vaccine or vaccines have been associated with the number 666, the so-called mark of the beast. That's one of the theories that has sprung up during this pandemic. And as I've said, I will come back to the vaccine as well towards the end of my presentation. Let's come to the pandemic social effects. There is now no doubt that the pandemic is caused by a virus called the novel coronavirus, SARS-CoV-2. Work is still being done on how it arose, and the World Health Organization is still busy with that, working with China. It has to be clarified that coronaviruses have been in existence for years and have been causing disease. And even some of the flu that we suffer from has been from coronaviruses. But this is a new one, hence it was called the novel coronavirus. Some pandemics and epidemics are well documented and existed long before the novel virus causing the COVID-19 pandemic. They continue to kill people in various parts of the world. Some of you will recall one of these as SARS, and this coronavirus that caused COVID is from that group as well. The Ebola in many parts of Africa is from the same virus. H1N1, the equine flu, etc. These have all caused either epidemics or pandemics. Coming closer home and the world, with 4 million deaths worldwide and 65,000 officially recorded in South Africa, the COVID-19 virus is not yet to disappear from the world. That 65,000 in South Africa, by the way, is said to be an underestimation when you take the concept called excess death. Ukufa okudlulisileyo kunokuqhelekileyo ebekukade bubhalwa kudala. Kufunyaniseka ukuba if you take the excess death, there is close to 200,000 deaths in South Africa related to the COVID-19. We have experienced 3 waves already, and there is already a forecast for a 4th wave in December. Like many viruses, this virus survives by changing itself. This is referred to the variants that we see, like alpha, the beta, the delta, and I hear there's also lambda, etc. The cumulative infections in South Africa currently exceed 2 million. They are 2.3 million to be exact. And of the close to 60 million plus citizens of this country, about 7 million, just above 7 million, have been vaccinated. The active cases are 140,000 by today. Much as there is a 90+% survival rate in the country, there is a lot of social and economic devastation in society, with certain vulnerable groups affected disproportionately. And amongst these groups are the poor. People living in poverty, older persons, persons with disabilities, youth, indigenous people, etc., have suffered a lot of social and economic devastation due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Inequality and poverty are becoming more marked with an increase in exclusion of people. Whether it's in the economy or in the availability of the vaccine, even with the availability of water for hand washing, there is a lot of exclusion, a lot of discrimination. And as we know, global unemployment is increasing. South Africa is suffering greatly from that aspect. The combination of poverty, inequality, and unemployment in this country is causing a lot of distress amongst the communities. The pandemic and the measures taken to fight against it have the following effects socially. One, separation from loved ones. Secondly, loss of freedom, be it freedom of movement or freedom of association and other freedoms. Like, for instance, people are not so free anymore to go to church. We have just seen a reopening now for 50 people. Whilst we were in level 4, alert level 4, the churches were closed. People are not so free to engage in cultural activities. People are not free to visit others in hospitals. You cannot visit your family members in hospital when they are sick at times, even if they are not sick from COVID, but at times you are not able to visit them. You are not free to visit the sick, even in their homes. So there's a loss of freedom. There is uncertainty.
And by the time of Senseka, we cannot run away from
I'm sorry, Prof. I can't see
by
who
the
is
time
there.
of Senseka, you
Please
were married.
mute yourself.
You were
I can't
married.
see who is it.
Then
Please, is that you? Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, Prof. You may continue.
So the first one was separation from loved ones. The second one was loss of freedom, and I've elaborated on that. The third one is uncertainty about the advancement of the disease. Sonke silapha nje asiqinisekanga uba ngomso kungathwani na.
Wow.
Noba ingavela inyuke kakhulu, noba ingavela ihle. So there is uncertainty. And ukuhlala ngaphandle kokuqiniseka kuba si-stress esikhulu ebantwini. There's fourthly a feeling of helplessness. Fifthly, there are negative effects on relationships and interactions. There are negative impacts on how people live their interpersonal relationship. Uba dihlala njani nabanye abantu, and it's having a negative impact. And then communication. Communication has been badly affected in many families. Some of these may lead to behaviors that are suicidal. Some of these may lead to emotional and behavioral changes in children, where you see children losing concentration, suffering from boredom, having uneasiness, restless, abakwazi ukuba bahlale kakuhle abantwana, and children having worries. Health workers and those who look after the ill are not spared the negative impact of the pandemic and its measures. Stress, noba ungumfundisi okanye igosa, kuba uhamba uvizitela abantu begula okanye besemingcwabeni, you have lots of stress to suffer from. To the extent that there is thought that many people are currently suffering from post-traumatic stress syndrome. Laa nto ayikade isenzeka xa uke wabethwa nobethwa wakwi-detention okanye wathini, that stress is coming back with the trauma that people are suffering from. Some people are suffering from burnout syndrome. Those who are supposed to be looking after the ill, the health workers, social workers, many other people, and I include the healers in this, traditional healers and the church members. Stigma. There are fears that health workers can carry this disease from the workplace to their homes and to other people. There are fears that if you have a relative who has COVID, you too already have COVID. There are families, of course, that have suffered very, very badly from COVID, with members of the family being decimated by the disease. And therefore, people associate any member of the family who comes from that family to be having COVID. There is a constant fear of being infected. Wonke umuntu unololoyiko ba beke ndalapha ndiza kosuleleka, beke ndaya esibhedlele ndiza kosuleleka, beke ndaya epost office kugcwele ndiza kosuleleka, njalo njalo. There's that constant fear. This leads to obsessive thoughts, increasing and progressive closure of the person. Umuntu azivalele ngoku. Not just physically ngozivalele endlini, but you close up your life. You have a closure of your life within a particular paradigm ohleli ukuyo and not associate with other people. And this reduces social relationships severely. Let me leave the pandemic for a while and come to the vaccine. The vaccines have brought great hope in controlling the pandemic. What could not be achieved with HIV and AIDS has been achieved for COVID-19, and that is the development of vaccines. Abantu abaninzi basatsho nangokuba uba ngaba besinofumana i-vaccine ye-HIV and AIDS, ngekungekho kubi kangaka with HIV and AIDS. Of course, some of these now are taking a back a background because we're focusing on COVID. Isekhona HIV and AIDS, isekhona TB, isekhona diabetes and hypertension, and they are killing people. So with COVID-19, there's been a huge achievement. Leyo kuba ibe khona vaccine. The development of the vaccines to prevent the spread of infection and severe disease in those infected is what has happened. It is necessary for as many people as possible to be vaccinated in order to achieve the goal of prevention. This has been achieved in conditions like smallpox. You'll remember, sake sanento kuthiwa yingqakaqha, smallpox. Ayisayiboni ingqakaqha. It was eliminated through the use of vaccines. Kwake kwakho into ekuthiwa ipolio, and poliomyelitis is almost eliminated due to vaccines as part of it, but of course there are issues like sanitation, etc., that have also come to being. Illnesses like diphtheria, measles, imasisi, hepatitis, isifo sesibindi, and some cancers like cancer of the cervix, where you prevent this by immunizing or vaccinating abantwana besesesikolweni. It has to be stressed that vaccines are safe. I want to stress that in this meeting. And I'm going to come back to that by illustrating, as I've already indicated, how many people are vaccinated in this country. That is the starting point for all of us. Vaccines are safe. Vaccines have been used for ages, as I've illustrated with the above diseases. All of them go through a very rigorous process of testing and trials of one type or the other. All the current vaccines used in South Africa and those awaiting use after SAPRA approves them have been investigated and tested before their use. All vaccines work along similar principles. I want to explain that so that people can understand. If vaccine le yenza ntoni xa ingenile apha emzimbeni wakho. Kukhona a particular principle that they work on. They stimulate the body to produce chemicals that will be used to fight against the invading organisms, whether a virus or a bacteria. They will work to produce chemicals to fight that. The chemicals are part of the immune system. All living organisms have an immune system that protects them from infection. Every time a foreign organism like a virus or a bacteria invades the human body, the body has a system that detects it first and then produces a defense mechanism of cells or chemicals and chemicals to fight it. So, njengelizwe, ukuba ngaba kukho utshaba olungenayo, you need to have your system, i-system ye-intelligence, ezawukwazi ukuthi nanga naba bantu abazaba lutshaba kweli lizwe bezawungena. And immediately you set your processes ezawuzama ukukhusela ilizwe. That's how the body works. It works exactly like that. It will detect that there's something foreign that is in me. And once that is detected, the measures to fight that are produced by the body, fitting to the strength of that enemy and fitting to the type of the enemy. So that is what is called the immune system. Nike nive mos abantu besithi, no one is immune from being held accountable. So awunovela ube immune, but uzaba immune kwezi xa uzilungiselele umzimba wakho i-defenses zakho. That's the immune system. The vaccines prime the body to be able to produce these earlier and in a particular strong fashion to overcome the invader. So xa ufumene i-vaccine ngoku, i-vaccine i-imitator la enemy izayo emzimbeni wakho, i-virus okanye i-bacteria, yenze umzimba ube primed, ngongathi uhlupheza inja. Xa uhlupheza inja uyayiqinisa, uyilungiselele uba xa idibana notshaba izilwe njani na. Then umzimba ke ngoku uyahlutshezwa ile vaccine that it must be ready. There is, whenever this enemy comes, to attack, fight it, and eliminate it. It has to be emphasized again that the vaccine against COVID-19, the vaccines against COVID-19 have no power to change the genetic material of a human body. That's part of the fake news that's going around, that when these vaccines are given to a person, azawufika atshintshe ne-DNA yomzimba womntu, umntu ayeke uba nguye, abe lolunye uhlobo lomntu okanye olunye uhlobo lwesilwanyana. Because that's what happens if your DNA changes. You first stop being a human being, or you secondly change from being yourself, because we have unique genetic material for a particular individual, but we have the same genetic material that makes us human beings. So that we are different from any other animal, we have the same genetic material. I-DNA ke yona ayohluli uba umhlophe okanye umnyama okanye usuke Asia okanye uphina. As for humans, that global one for humans, it produces a human being. And then kubekho specific changes ke ezakwenza ube ngumuntu lo unguye, who is unique as you are. No vaccine will change that. Ndingatsho ndimi apha ndivaccinated, sendigqibile nala 42 days, ndizifumene zombini doses zam, and I know many of my family and friends who have gone through this. Nothing has happened to change i-DNA yabo. And andifuni nje ukuthi ngoku ayisoze yenzeke nanini na loo nto leyo. It would be impossible for the world to go through as numbers the vaccination esezenzekile if that was a possibility. And the changes would have occurred in some people by now. I will show you later what numbers I'm talking about as a vaccinated. It has to be emphasized, as I've said, that COVID-19 vaccines will not change your genetic material. The DNA a person has will not be changed by the vaccine. The genetic material or RNA that is possible, that is in some vaccines, is meant to produce a protein that will lead to the production of an immune response to the virus, not to attack the genetic material of the person in order to change it. The vaccines are not related to the mark of the beast that is referred to in the Bible. Not at all. Vaccines, like all medical products, are approved after investigation of benefits and risks. All medical products will have some benefits and some risks. Iyeza silityayo for iswekile, silityayo for hypertension, silityayo for pneumonia, silityayo for any other illness, including the flu vaccine that we have been using for years. Kujongwa ukuba i-benefits zayo zingakanani na compared to i-risks. Once the benefits outweigh the risks, that particular medical product is used for human beings. This has been the case for all the vaccines used. Neziya ndithethe ngazo kuqala ze-smallpox, ze-polio, ze-measles, ze-tetanus, nantoni na. All of them have gone through testing. Yes, like all medical products, there will be side effects. Those are the risks that we're talking about, and I'll mention some of them. The side effects that have been found from the vaccines are far outweighed by the prevention of severe illness and death from COVID-19. Some of the documented ones are the following: pain at the site of the injection. 2, headaches. 3, fever. 4, body pain. Those are the common ones. And most of the time, these are mild. Within a day or within hours, some of these disappear. Yes, of course, there are some rare side effects that have been found. One of them is a syndrome called the Guillain-Barré syndrome. It's not new. It's not just for COVID-19. It has been there for years. At times, it affects people after having suffered from flu. There has been allegations of viruses that attack the nerves at the back on your spine. And those nerves, when they are affected, they cause loss of function, mainly of the lower limbs, that is the legs. So it's a motor, it affects ukushukuma kwe-muscles, it affects ukushukuma kwamalungu. It's rare. Omnye umntu ude wathi it's almost as rare as being struck by lightning kwindawo ekwi-urban area. The second one are allergic reactions. Siyazazi i-allergic reactions ziyenzeka ebantwini nokuba uhlatywe ngepenicillin nokuba utye iyeza okade ulitya before kuvele kubekho i-reaction. So severe allergic reactions do occur. Yiloo nto kuthiwa xa uyiphaya kwi-vaccine kuthiwe khawukulinde 15 minutes observe uba iqhuba njani na, because the health workers who are there are trained to treat whatever allergic reaction that comes up. The third rare one, which was found in America, I have not heard about it in South Africa, are the blood clots. Amahlwili enzeke egazini whilst the blood is circulating in your body. You develop some clots, and then this causes all sorts of problems. Ingabloka igazi eliya kwimalungu abalulekileyo ubone ungafunctioni kakuhle. So that is rare also. In America, it happened in, I can't remember the number of people there, but these were few people after 6 million people had been already injected with the vaccines. So it's rare. And people look for why these particular individuals had those particular side effects. So you have to find out so that you can then say this type of people may not be given this type of vaccine, because it's not all the vaccines, again, that do that. I want to stress as I come towards conclusion that the vaccines are safe and many people, listen to the numbers now, more than 3 billion people have been vaccinated in the world already as we sit here now, with no or very minimal side effects. The USA alone has vaccinated 150 million people. 55% of the UK population of 36 million have been vaccinated. That's more than 19 million people. Coming back home, more than 7 million people of the South African population have been vaccinated. None of these countries have detected side effects that could make them stop the vaccine program. The only stoppage that you see is stop to see and retest and make sure that the vaccine is safe, like we did here in South Africa when the Johnson & Johnson vaccine was found in America to have caused those clots. We stopped, we re-evaluated, and we have moved on. Johnson & Johnson is back. Nothing has happened to our people. In conclusion, the world is faced with a new pandemic. Knowledge about it continues to develop. The pandemic and the measures taken to fight it affect countries and populations in various ways, including the social and economic impacts that may vary from country to country and society to society. Inequalities are manifestly more marked with the pandemic, whether it is the disease itself, how it spreads, whether it's the non-medical preventive interventions or the availability of vaccines. Preventive measures, including the vaccines, are the major hope for humanity to win the battle against the pandemic. The comprehensive approach to managing the pandemic includes psychosocial support, amongst which are cultural, religious, or faith-based groups, economics, etc. Like the bitter water that was facing another generation years ago, there's always a way God finds a leaf or a branch that will turn the bitter water into sweet water. Hopefully, the vaccines that we're using are vaccines that have been directed by the one above and will help us to get this COVID-19 eliminated over time, not immediately. It will take time. However, it's for all of us to take the necessary steps currently, prevent the disease from spreading, help those who need help, whether it's psychological, it's social, or economic. The whole movement of the people must be supported and dealt with. Ndiyabulela kakhulu ngeli thuba. Thank you very much to all of you for lending me your ears and for the invitation that was extended to me. I hope there will be time for questions and comments, and hopefully some of those who are here who have shared some of these thoughts with me in various places will also add their voice to the discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you so much for your presentation. I think you have touched kuzo zonke aspects that we had fears on. We were talking about this nomnye umfundisi kusasa. Sisithi, I wonder if vaccine le is the answer of our prayers. Are we not now rejecting the response kaThixo ngokuveza vaccine? Xa abantu ngoku beyoyika bengayifuni. But I think we should also be aware of the social media. The social media is the problem. I think we need to deal with it. But I'm so happy to see so many doctors, so many professors in this platform today. I wish to welcome everybody. I must just give to Mr. Nzwane from the Department of Health to introduce himself and his team, so that if we have questions, go to reactions, then you raise up your hand if you have a question, or you can write it to the chat box. We will come back to you. Mr. Nzwane, can you unmute yourself and open your video so that people can see? Mr. Nzwane, are you here?
Yes, I am here, Reverend. I'm not
Thank
sure that
you.
can you see me?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Mr. Nzwane.
All right. Good evening, Reverend Ngalwana. Good evening, Prof Mvuyo Tom. And indeed, thank you for a very inspiring address. Evening to all the ministers of religion on the platform. Greetings to my own colleagues. There is a full team from the Department of Health. I've seen a few of my colleagues who are in the district leadership, various district managers here. We've got several members of the top management. And there's also, as the Prof said, a number of our doctor colleagues, both in management and in practice, that I think I saw here. It is indeed a pleasure, Reverend, for us as the Department of Health to be here, because we appreciate the central role that is played by the church in the business of health and the wellness of individuals and communities. I think, as Prof has indicated, health is said to be the state of complete physical, mental, and of course then he added quite a number of other elements, mental and social well-being, and not merely just the absence of disease. And that then says that as health, we appreciate the big role that the church plays in terms of the psychosocial support, the psychosocial healing, and the spiritual well-being of our clients that come to the health facilities, but also our communities in general. With me, Reverend, as I said, there are colleagues who would take turns to contribute to the discussions. The HOD could not join us here, but he then requested that with the colleagues we attend and indeed contribute to the discussions as much as possible. Of course, allowing the broad leadership of the church, of the communities, to lead in this discussion, but then perhaps here and there add to what Prof Tom had given in terms of the technical inputs that may be required. Perhaps just to also just acknowledge the input that was made by Prof, appreciating the depths and the insights that he has shared. And as I said, having underlined the psychosocial effects of COVID-19, both on the infected individuals and the affected family members and friends. I found that even the language, complicated as it may be, but Prof did so well in simplifying and making it accessible for all of us, thereby empowering our leadership so that everybody is able to assist, in securing a buy-in in society for the vaccination as one intervention measure, but also for the so-called non-pharmaceutical intervention. So I think in terms of that empowerment for our leadership, I think Prof did very well in that area. And I think lastly then, from our perspective as health, of course, we also appreciate the fact that there are very strong parallels that Prof has drawn, between the so-called social determinants of health and issues of access to vaccination and so on. But I think obviously as health and perhaps some of the information that we can share is how with this being the people's government, how do we endeavor to bridge the limitations caused by inequality, by the rural settings that our people find themselves in, et cetera, et cetera. And then lastly, as we say, we really appreciate broadly the psychosocial support. We know that there is a program which was introduced right from the inception last year as the country was responding to COVID. And in that program, the role of the church was quite prominent in terms of looking after the psychosocial well-being of our people in response to the challenges and the risks that Prof so eloquently spoke about in terms of the impact of the COVID, the isolation, the change of some of what we have traditionally known as the cultural practices, the social distancing, the impact of the lockdown. I think Prof has covered that very well. So thank you very much, Reverend Galwana, for this opportunity. And as I say, I'm going to keep quiet now and allow my colleagues who are here in big numbers to also jump in at the point when you call for inputs and comments from the Department of Health. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Nzwane. I think there is a question there. I'm not sure who is going to help us. There is a consent that J&J seem to be not effective in Delta variant. How true is that? Anyone can respond, even Prof. You can just unmute and ascend to the podium to respond. Did you get the question? You can check the chat box.
Thank you, Chair. Scientists who are working.
Some other gadgets, I cannot mute them from my side. Some I can. iPhone, can you mute yourself there, please? Okay, Prof, you can continue. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. The vaccines, all of them, when they are tested, there is what is called efficacy that is checked. Of course, it's during those trials, during those testing, in a huge sample that this is done. So you'll find some of them saying 80%, some of them 70%, et cetera, et cetera. South Africa has worked with these viruses initially on the beta variant. That was responsible for the second wave. The third wave came with the Delta, and these have been tested. There is work that has been done to show that both Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson are effective on the Delta virus. So there's no fear from the scientific world that one of them may not be effective. They will vary with percentages, as I say, but they are effective. The effectiveness, I want to emphasize this again, is to prevent the severity of the disease if you are infected. But the effectiveness is also to reduce the spread of the virus. So of great importance, if you happen to get the virus, it will be mild if you've got the vaccines. It may not lead to hospitalization. It may not lead to the ventilators being used on you. So that is what is happening. So none of the vaccines has been found not to be effective against the Delta variant. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. I don't see any other questions from the chat box. Do you have people who wants to ask? I don't see hands here. Okay, thank you so much to Prof for the powerful presentation. Okay, I don't see any hands, meaning people are okay. They've got their, oh, here is Dr. Ruka. You can unmute yourself, Mfundisi.
Yes, thanks Mfundisi for this opportunity. Mandibulise ngapha kumdala uTom and also everyone kule platform, and also thank you for the presentation. As Mfundisi, you have explained Uba, tonight there's a lot of medical professionals, of which myself I'm a minister in the congregation, and then we hear a lot of narratives from our congregants that they are so concerned about the issue of COVID-19 as well as the vaccine. So the question endifuna uyibuza, it's one of the theories that have been narrated so far, whether it's a conspiracy or how close is it to the reality. Like Prof mentioned, the COVID-19 is mutating, and then there's a lot of variances as we are now in Delta variant. Now, people have been saying polio, measles, hepatitis, when people got vaccination against them, it worked well. Now, the concern was that with the COVID-19, it's mutating, and then they say those one were not mutating. Now, Prof also mentioned the issue that vaccine, they go a vigorous testing, of which early this year, when we received the AstraZeneca from India, it was rejected. Now, I understand maybe the fear and the theories where they come from the people, because Tina, we are not in the medical side. So if maybe the other doctors that are here as well can explain that theory, whether how is it that the COVID is mutating, and then we should not compare with the other vaccines that have been used before, because of this situation now is, of course, we say it's a novel coronavirus because it's new. Maybe let me ask two questions. This is the first one. Now, the second one, I come from the rural areas in a former Transkei in Willowvale. So looking at the environment here in Gauteng, where I am now, and also when I go home, and also with the friends at home in the Eastern Cape, the issue of alcohol, we've realized at home, and also when I speak with colleagues at home, friends, people like professionally, they are saying to me, most yabantu that are alcoholic, or people that are drinking alcohol at home or in their communities, they hardly seen them dying in majority in terms of COVID. And that one I've seen at home as well. They are still drinking, even on the third wave. They were still drinking using one beer, drinking it. And most people that I know as well that died of COVID were people who were drinking alcohol. And then now people come with this a notion that the sanitizer, it must have 75% alcohol for efficacy. If now you can explain about, is it the issue of alcohol we also maybe, because we don't want to make a public statement. The government, I believe, cannot make a public statement that can put people into danger. We know people, they drink alcohol socially, but other people, they abuse alcohol. Is anything has to do with alcohol that we can say maybe somewhere, somehow, it does assist, or maybe the government decide not to say anything that people, because if alcohol will be open up, people who drink and abuse, accidents, all these things, domestic violence, GBV, alcohol sometimes is always behind. If I can just maybe get a clarification in those two questions. Thanks so much, Mfundisi.
Thank you so much. Let's take the second hand. Mamloti Makakane.
Mfundisi.
Thank you, Muruti. And thank you, Gakulu, Prof. I just wanted to boast that I go to the same church with Prof. But then, but I want to talk about, Prof mentioned a theory that misleads people to an extent that some are saying the vaccine is bringing upon the mark of the beast on people, 666. And I want to come to on the side of spiritual practitioners, biblical practitioners. What we need to do is, as Christians, is to familiarize ourselves with the word of God. And once that has set in, we will know that we are nowhere near that in terms of the predictions that Jesus made as to the end of the world as we know it. And secondly, I want to say nothing. From our reading of the Bible, we know that the devil cannot do anything unless God permits it to human beings. We have seen that with Job. So what kind of God would we be serving if he allows the vaccine to induce the 666 on us? So I want to say to Christians, we cannot be misled in that way. It is only if we do not know our Bible that we would entertain those kind of thoughts.
Thank you, Mfundisi Makakane. Thank you so much. Mr. Ntwane, ningayekela uProf wethu kaloku apha. Bapha abantu bakwa health. Please unmute yourself and respond to these questions. Prof, you can respond if there's no one.
I was hoping that there would be a full response from the officials from the department, especially on the AstraZeneca situation. I can only partially answer Umfundisi Upuka on that. My partial answer is, yes, AstraZeneca was found to be very effective against the Alpha variant. I'm going to start there before I come to the polios and others. And it was found not to be very effective against the Beta, but has been found again to be very effective against the Delta. The British have been using the AstraZeneca for their wave, and it's very effective. In fact, there is a graph that I saw showing the rate of infection and the rate of death before the vaccines were used, then the rate of infection and the rate of death after the vaccines were used. And Britain has drastically reduced death after the use of the vaccines. So yes, there's been a problem with AstraZeneca in terms of the particular variants that we had in South Africa. In fact, I am confident that if that were to come back now, it would also assist with the AstraZeneca, with the Delta variant. Let me then come to the points that Mfusi Buka has raised, which are very valid. Yes, polio was polio, and it was a virus. Smallpox, there were not many variants, if there were any, for those earlier stages. However, the vaccines are used for flu as well. And flu has got multiple variants. And the vaccines have been found very helpful for the elderly and those who have got comorbidities to prevent the severity of flu if they caught flu. So in that sense, the coronavirus, which I did explain earlier on, is related to some of the flu viruses that we get, is also having these multiple variants. The fact that HIV and AIDS had no virus was related, no vaccine, I'm sorry, was related to the mutations that were there, the variants that we are getting in HIV and AIDS, which are so multiple that no effective vaccine could be found. So what people do when they detect a virus to be multiplying, they look for a constant part of that virus, which when dealt with can be effective in terms of dealing with the reduction of severity and the reduction of spread of infection. So with the coronavirus, the COVID one, they've looked for those, and there are parts that are constant in all the alpha, beta, delta, and possibly with the lambda that's coming as well. So they look for that, and if it's effectively dealt with, then it reduces the spread and the severity of the disease. So yes, the theory that Mfusi Buka has put forward on variations and effectiveness, it is true. But it doesn't mean that this virus is the mark of the beast, so to say, or has been created somewhere to cause the havoc that it is causing. It is clear that it is a virus, and it falls to a particular group of viruses, the coronavirus, and it has been deadly, and it's spreading very widely. The rapidity of the production of the vaccine is related to the combined effort of the globe, the world as a whole, to fight it, because they saw what was going to happen with that virus if it was not tackled. And therefore, there was more rapid response. There were resources that were put together to deal with it as quickly as possible. And that's why this response has been great. About alcohol drinking and sanitization of the body, I there is no support for that from the scientific world. The anecdotes are there. Anecdotally, it's seen. I've got people who point that out when I go to certain parts of this country, to some of the townships, to some of the villages, and they say, you see, Tina, asifani nani, le nto yapha ezidolophini neyabantu bangaseliyo izawunibulala thina siyazama ngendlela esizama ngayo. I don't think it's actually attributed to sanitization of the throat with alcohol. But incidentally, there are certain people I know of who do drink, who have suffered from COVID severely and have died. So it's not scientifically proven, if I were to take that backing from the scientists, that alcohol can do it. Alcohol has been used for various things. That some people say it benefits your body if you drink, but even that, I'm not talking about COVID now, I'm talking about other illnesses that people think can be prevented by drinking alcohol. It's not true. Alcohol messes up the body. Alcohol affects your immunity, alcohol affects your mind, alcohol affects almost every organ of your body, especially if you take a lot of it. So I have no support for drinking to prevent COVID.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mohammed.
All right, let me just go quickly to Charles Nyagbona's podcast. I will give it to you now. From Lita Madaka, he says, rumors and conspiracy theories may lead to mistrust contributing to vaccine hesitance. Thanks to Prof for empowering us with the well-researched information. Thank you. Ndawunikela kuSiphokazi noMfundisi uFaleni. Siphokazi, you can unmute.
Thank you very much, Mfundisi. I'm Reverend Siphokazi Martini, an Anglican priest, by the way. Better
Okay,
I don't have a question, but I just want to say, thanks to Prof now Mfundisi, because I have vaccinated yesterday. I did not sleep a wink last night. Ingalo yam nje was just ndiqonda ngase ndiyisuse bhetere ingabikho. And today, the whole day, ibingelo suku lwam nje, I was sick. Umfundisi Makakane was here to see me. Wafika ndikwimo nje engekho right. And as a priest, I was saying to myself the whole day, how am I going to be able to convince Amahamente to go and vaccinate if mna a vaccine indenza ndibe sick as I was sick? I couldn't sit kule couch nhleli kuyo for too long during the day. Benji was feeling hot 5 minutes, I'm feeling cold, and inhlobo yami nje just wanted me to lie down. But I thank God for the session ye webinar, because it has given me strength. The Prof has explained the side effects the vaccine. So I am able now to say, ubu vaccinatile, kwabakhona side effects. That doesn't mean you are going to die. And I think this webinar is giving us, especially ministers, because
seem to be losing you.
I think most of us in our churches, we are thinking of the ways of how to make money. Okay. We are
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Sisi, I can hear you.
Ndiyavakala mfundisi.
Ewe, Sipakazi.
I don't know mfundisi. Okay,
Ewe,
okay.
uyavakala.
So okay. Ndithi mfundisi le webinar is an eye-opening to okay, is an eye-opening, especially of us ngoku we are busy thinking on the ways of how to recover our financially. Kanti we are pushing aside ezi zinto bezithethwa nguProf apha ekuqaleni sithi yonke lento it has gone back to into yoba if you are a minister uyo ministerisha to that sick person, then after that ubuye uthwele yonke lento. I think we need more of these webinars because ulwazi oluncinci Prof lwenza abantu abaninzi bangafikeleli kwinto erayithi because social media ngoku is ought to destroy whatever even the government eyitrayayo ukuze ibona so bala Prof ukuthi kwakhona ipoliyo, HIV and AIDS and many more. So ne COVID le izodlula nazo zonke izinto zayo, but ke ngoku how do we go forward in informing people ukuthi you need to vaccinate? There is no mark of a beast here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sipakazi. Thank you so much. Sarero hlene ungasixeli pha Bishop. Funsifaleni, then ibe Galaxy A30, ibe Chris Jopili. Funsifaleni, you can unmute yourself.
Mongameli, mandibulise kuwe nakunjingalwazi. Bendifuna ukubuza nje kunjingalwazi kuba i-pharmaceutical companies i-business yazo le. And asingekwazi ukuyibaleka ncakasa loo nto kuba this is their business, i-pharmaceutical companies. And okwesibini, kulula ukukontrola umuntu ogulayo. Umuntu ogulayo kulula kakhulu kumcontrola kuba uyagula. Ikhona ke intetho andiqinisekanga noba isuka kodwa it's not the Western thought of medication, ingathi it's pharmaceutical, homeopathy or the Chinese medication. Ikhona kodwa into ethi uba le vaccine inyaniso nyani zakubaphilisa abantu, akungebi phaya phambili ingenza okokuba abantu babe kule meko abakuyo aba ngoku kuba bathi aba bagulayo kulula ukuba control, aba bangaguliyo ufanele ubuyikise ngoba bazawugula nabo, then ubafake i-vaccine eza kubenza ngomso bagule nabo. Yonke ke mhlawumbi loo nto, that's the agenda of the pharmaceutical companies. How do we trust them? Because we are all desperate. Those who are sick, you know, their rights are limited, kuba they are controlled. You listen to any advice when you are sick. Those who are not sick, they don't want to be sick. You intimidate them. And if these people are correct, that even those who are not sick, they will be vaccinated, but in 20 years to come, they will also be sick. So if pharmaceutical companies, singazithemba kanjani kulento, uba, is this not the way of maintaining their business by making sure that people are going to get sick for their business to continue. Ndicinga ke uba mhlawumbi mhlawumbi uluvo nje andilindelanga Prof athi kumele uthini kuloo nto, kodwa mhlawumbi uluvo lwakhe nje apha, because now we're depending on trust and hope apha uba hayi mhlawumbi ithemba mhlawumbi ke kwabanye noThixo njalo njalo, sithembe kanjalo. Ewe naye uThixo siyamthemba uba uya kusinceda kule nto, kodwa khange asincede ekuqaleni ngokubakho kwa i-vaccine, ngokubakho kwa i-COVID-19. Bekufanele uyinqande ayabikho kwaphaa ekuqaleni. So ndizama ke ukuthi mhlawumbi Prof angakasincede nje kuloo nto uba the pharmaceutical companies, we all know that they do have their agenda, and their agenda is to keep us sick. And singenza kanjani mhlawumbi ukususa loo ngcinga.
I'm sure siyakhalela nokuyazi uba umthandazo wabuthini. Thank you for this. Thank you so much. Mr. Nzwana, I think he left us, ne? Where is other representatives of health ebekuthiwa zikhona?
Mandithabathele ithuba ndibulise mfundisi.
Yes.
Ndibulise kumfundisi Tom, kubishop. Ndibulise kubo bonke abefundisi abakhona and my colleagues from the Department of Health.
Thank you, sister.
My name is Dr. Vatiswa Ngedaweti. I am a clinical pharmacist. Ndiphuma phesebeni. Ndicela uqala ndiphendule the last question before ndingene uba ndingene lantoni ngoku.
Okay, thank you, sister.
Yes, thank you mfundisi. Umba we-business ne with the pharmaceutical companies. Yes, pharmaceutical companies are in business. And as much as they are in business, we are also gaining something from them. Apha kumba we-vaccine or like any other medicine, yinto ethi xa iyeza lingena eMzantsi, we've got gatekeepers. Umzekelo, apha eSouth Africa sino SAPRA. USAPRA ke is a regulatory authority. I-authority apho eye ijonge ubana njebe kungena u-J&J nje utestiwe na, u-safe kangakanani na, u-effective kangakanani na, so that kungenziwa nje basically ngabantu baseMzantsi. So if kukhona ukungathembakali kwe-pharmaceutical companies, bekungasoze kube lula into yobana iqhubekeke loo nto, because we've got our gatekeepers. To add on kusapra, we've got National Department of Health. National Department of Health naye is overseeing such ujonge ke ngokuyena kakhulu kwi-cost. Andithi bendithe usapra yena uzawujonga kakhulu more ekutesting uba how safe is this vaccine? How effective is this vaccine? But now when we're talking costs ke ngoku, unational wethu kulapha ngena khona ke ngoku azothi kaloku ivayele one ingaba imalini, and if uthi imalini, is it affordable? Is it fair enough the cost? Yayibona. So we've got those two gatekeepers. We've got DOH, we've got NOSAPRA. So we are covered kwelo cala. Ndibuye ndize ke kuba na mna ndiphakamisele ntoni. Ndiphakamisela mna my stream. I have been assigned by the department to lead kweli cala lokumonitorisha the adverse events or the side effects. Ndiqale ndithathe le opportunity yokuba namhlawumbe ndimbulele umfundisi obesilidishela this discussion namhlanje. Ndithi ndingamnika u-10 out of 10. Ndifune ukuthi ndicela ukuedisha just to educate abantu further ngezi adverse events. Ndivile ukhona my sister in Christ did actually mention ukuthi naye she was ill after being vaccinated, and she kind of asked herself ukuthi how does she then convince the others to come and vaccinate. One, adverse events or the side effects, let me rather use the name side effects, because when we're talking adverse events, it's an overall term. Basically, we're talking events inclusive of hospitalization, inclusive of death, and etc. Now, if we focus on side effects are, or else let me go back to adverse events to try and explain to the colleagues and everyone who is at the congregation. The adverse events basically are any events that could be following the vaccination or any other medical, it's any other medical, untoward medical occurrence that might have a causal or not, a causal relationship or not with whatever product. So they might have the causal relationship with the vaccines, or they might not. Secondly, the side effect now is we're talking when we have now injected this vaccine, what happens? It triggers the immune system. When an immune system is triggered, you get certain things, you feel certain things. For example, there will be high temperature, there will be chills, there will be mild headache, but all those things are supposed to disappear with time. If we look now, they will happen, they are divided into two. We've got what we call local and systemic reactions. The local reactions are the reactions that will happen locally, where you were injected. You will swell on that area, you will have pain, you might see that that area is reddish. We further divide those local into minors and severe. A minor local reaction is when that reaction, you can see it subsiding as time goes by. It should subside within 2 to 3 days. But if it is progressing greater than 3 days and the swelling on that area is becoming bigger, greater than 5 centimeters, it's no longer then classified as a minor. It is then classified as a severe reaction. So it is treated as such. So that means you need to seek medical help. The reason I'm lifting these ones up is because sometimes people may take things for granted and not report these things. Yet we are saying, please do seek for medical help, go to your nearest clinic and report that you were vaccinated on this arm, and you are seeing that it's not going any further, but it's getting worse, so that you can be attended to. Any medical condition that is not being attended to, it's very easy to complicate and cause things that we don't want to, to happen or to occur. Then the second one, which I said it's systematic. Systematic is are reactions that happen now all over the body. If we're talking systemic, we're talking headaches, we're talking dizziness, we're talking feeling malaise, that is feeling sick. So those ones, again, they should subside with time and are minor if a person can actually continue with their daily activities. And they become severe if someone is feeling very sick and it's starting to affect their daily activities. So we are encouraging people to please go report to the nearest healthcare facility. Bangahlali umuntu azirate. Yabona ke thina ke sinento ekuthiwa zirate, we believe. And ke ngokuna ezonto ezo azifuneki. So kufuneka uye to the nearest clinic, siyayazi xa ufikile thina ubana ngaba uhlobo elithile le reaction funeke silimanage kanjani. Then ndiphinde ndize kwindaba ye-onset of the reaction. No, khumbula uBishop bekhe wathatha nge-allergic reactions. Allergic reactions ke sithetha nge-reaction umzekelo engenzeka within 4 hours post-vaccination. Lando ethi xa nifikayo phayana kwi-vaccination sites, siye sicela into ethi abantu mabalinde la 15 minutes to 30 minutes so that we observe bangaba iza kuqhuba ikuthini le vaccine wena, because kaloku remember, this is a new thing kuthi ne, as much as it has been tested phaya kwamanye amazwe kwabanye abantu, the genes zethu nabo azifani. So yile nto ke ngoku sisithi when you, and okokuqala not wonke umuntu mos uzawuzi experience side effects ne abanye abantu abazikhange bazi experience ungayohlaba nomnye ohlaba but fumanise uba abayi-5 abakhange bazi experience but wena uzi experience. So kuxhomekeka ukuthi wena umzimba wakho wakhiwe kanjani, what type of genes do you have, how your body is actually reacting to the vaccine as a person, wena as an individual ke ngoku. So le onset ngeba ndizama ukuthi ke ngoku la reaction yenzeka within 4 hours esiye sithi mhlawumbi umzekelo ngu-anaphylaxis ne okanye i-anaphylaxis, it's an allergic reaction eye ifana nomuntu allergic kwi-penicillin ne okufumanisa uba kuthiwa ungabe uphinde uhlabe i-penicillin wena you are allergic to penicillin. That's the most common one that we know of. But nalapha ke kwi-vaccine ikhona, not only to the COVID, na any other drug or any other pharmaceutical product, you can get anaphylaxis. So we are observing abantu for such reasons. We want to pick up early ezinto ezinjalo and treat immediately. Then iyakwazi into yokubana mhlawumbi ungava nto total the whole day namhlanje, but uzova ngomso okanye after 3 days okanye after a week okanye after, you know. So you need to observe yourself. However, don't put it in your mind kakhulu ubana ngaba you might have an adverse event, because also the power of the mind yenye ye problem ezibangela uba umuntu athi ngoku engeka-react abe anxious.
Yes.
React ngenxa ye-anxiety. So basically those are the 2 things I wanted to touch on into it. Sinayo ulocal siyamazi uba kula injection site ungenzeka ubana ngaba ube nayo ipain and izawuphela, ube udumbe ithini but izawuphela, ube nayo laa ntloko, laa dizziness, laa body aches, laa mzimba ubuhlungu but izawuphela. Kodwa once ufumanisa ubana ngaba you are progressively getting worse, come to the hospital, because kuyashiyana indlela abantu abareacta ngayo nonto yobana ke ngokuna mhlawumbe like umzekelo uba ngaba utya okanye mhlawumbi unezigulo ezithile ongakhange ube kanti ziyakhontroleka, uyayiqonda, zezinye zezinto ezibalulekileyo ezifuneke once uzive uba ngaba ikhona into ongayivi right, ungumntu one-pressure ne-hypertension, mas kuyafuneka usondele uze to the nearest clinic kuzobona into nkobana inoba kwenzeka ntoni kuwe, and then you will be managed accordingly. Apha ke siye sathi Eastern Cape, we've got 3 ways of reporting the adverse events. Uyaya to your nearest healthcare facility, kune toll-free number ekhoyo apho ureport akhona to the call center for the community. And then kube ne Med Safety app. Med Safety app ke it's an app that anyone can download apho umuntu achaza khona uba indlela afilisha ngayo. Kodwa ke siyakhuthaza uluntu ubana please, if you do happen to experience any symptoms, the adverse events, report those symptoms, because as much as ubana ngaba uzoba right, uzawumanejwa, nathi siyafuna ukuyazi ubana ngaba as abantu baseMzantsi si-reacta kanjani thina nje bifike kuthi nje le vaccine. Enkosi Mfundisi.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Chris, you can unmute yourself. Chris, usekhona?
Khona Mfundisi, enkosi kakhulu. Mfundisi, greetings to you, greetings to Mvuyo Prof Tom, greetings to the doctors as khona, professors, abefundisi bonke, and everyone khona in the platform. Igama lenkosi uJesu, amen.
Amen.
Mfundisi, I have a question. I'm not sure whether my information is a conspiracy or what, but I'm sure Ogqirha no Prof abakhona, they will assist in shedding some light. I've read somewhere that in the vaccine, COVID, part of the ingredients as corn kuyo is a percentage of COVID, and they were saying that that percentage it helps that when the vaccine gets into your body, it helps your body to produce antibodies so that ikwazi protect against the virus xa seyifikile emzimbeni wakho if izofika. But same as flu vaccine, nayo iba nayo a pinch of flu something phakuyo, and but awukwazi ukufumana a flu vaccine when you already have flu in your body because ayizusebenza. So number one, I want to ask whether that is true. Number two, if then that is true, my follow-up question would be, is it then not wise to make people aware that before you test for COVID, before you vaccinate for COVID, you first be sure of your status, whether awunayo na already in your body, so that you don't go and vaccinate ube so nayo, because maybe that might cause problems if what I have read is true. Thank you, Mfundisi.
Thank you, Chris. Doc, are you gonna handle this or Snikele Prof?
Okay, I shall answer and then Prof angancedisa. I-percentage virus kwi-vaccine yona ayikho. Ayikho at all. Into eyenzekayo, the way these are manufactured are that they are manufactured in such a way that when it is injected, the vaccine, it triggers the immune system to develop antibodies. Antibodies, those are the things esithi xa sizibiza in lay language ngamajoni omzimba. Xa ifika egazini, this injection ifika itriggerishe the soldiers in inverted commas zomzimba ukubana ngaba xa zibona i-COVID as now a virus at a later stage, zifike umzimba wakho ufit ekhona amajoni enziwe yintoni, into bana ukhe waba exposed to into engathi, uyayibona. So uyatriggerishwa. It's just an artificial into emimika obangathi you are xa umzimba wakho ijongile uzoba ngathi ujonga i-COVID, ne? Kanti akajonganga COVID as a virus, ne? It's just that it is something that is mimicking COVID, but it is not the COVID virus. Ayikho yona i-COVID virus vaccine ku-J&J, especially ke ngoku, let's be specific and talk to ezi zikhona u-J&J no Pfizer currently that are being used. And then kule yesibini umbuzo uthi ayisebenzi xa ugula i-vaccine. Not that ayisebenzi xa ugula i-vaccine, but what happens when you are sick, your immune system is already weak. So we are saying don't vaccinate if you feel weak. If you feel sick, because if you are sick, your immune system is also at a strain. So if you are vaccinating, vaccine yinto ezawutriggerisha ubana ngaba kudevelopeke amajoni, meaning that your body is going to work hard to build up la majoni omzimba. So awufuni ke ngoku into ozawuthi uziva amajoni akho awekho nguwo uphinde uhlabe enye into ezawukhoza another stress to your body, ngoba you don't know uba iza ku straina kangakanani umzimba wakho ikuthathe kubeke phi loo nto. I hope I'm trying to simplify things. It's not easy to simplify in medical terms, but I hope ndiyavakala. If mhlawumbi ukhona umbuzo, I can further explain myself. But the reason why we are saying do not vaccinate when you are sick, it is because it's not because ayizusebenza. No, it is because we don't want to further strain your immune system because we know it might overwhelm it, and we don't know then uba wena umzimba wakho uzawureacta kanjani na, uzayithatha kanjani na loo nto, ingakugulisa kakhulu okanye ikuthini. So that is what is being avoided. Thank you, Mfundisi.
Thank you so much, Doc. Uthi ke nayo Chris Shaw, so it means uphendulekile. Our session is coming to an end. I want to thank every one of you for your data, for your time, for your choices. I always say in our homes now we've got Wi-Fi, we've got Netflix, we've got DSTV. So you had the choice to choose what you want to do, but you chose to be here. From the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you all. Prof, before we close, uyazi lento okuthiwa sisifundiswa usenzile inceba namhlanje. You have tackled this kuzo zonke ikona. I could not understand into yoba i-vaccine ingadityaniswa njani ne-beast. I could not. But you know ke singabantu sicinga ngohlobo osicinga ngalo. There are so many theories, there are so many distorting information esivayo ko Facebook nangontoni. But I want to say thank you so much. Your presentation, uhealth uzomxelela ummele apha doctor, nibaxelele abaphathi, nixele ekhaya into yobana uProfessor Tom unimele apha. Thank you so much for your time. Before I close, Prof, if you have anything to sum up, you can say. I know sometimes something pops out. Do you have anything?
Enkosi Mongameli, I will just say in 1 minute, qala manibulele, but I just want to go back to Reverend Martins, Mfundisi Spokas. Phaya kula ndawo kutestwa ku-vaccinatwa kuyo, kudla ngo-advisor, we use Panado for razor pains as finishleo. And I've seen many people recovering very quickly, just purely using Panado. Ungasebenzisi aspirin, sebenzisa Panado. Then I just want to say to Umfundisi Ufaleni, I was hoping uzawuqalisa la mvuselelo yakhe. Kuba ubuvule ngeculo alithandayo kula mvuselelo nami endilithanda. Mfundisi, le issue Mfundisi Ufaleni ngengoku, the issue ye pharmacy isenoba ne-topic separate. It's kangangoba kudla ngothethwa ngayo kuthiwa yi-big pharma, the big pharmaceuticals zingancokolwa. Kodwa in this case, I want to emphasize the point one about the vaccines. As the vaccines are produced by all countries, socialists and capitalists, they have all seen the need yokuba i-vaccine iyanceda kule meko sikuyo ngoku. So I wouldn't think about it's a full agenda pharmaceuticals. There's a debate on the big pharma, and mhlawumbi ngenye imini ndawuze ndincokole naye sivane ngale nto le. And nangale homeopaths, India is full of homeopaths, full of people who practice alternative medical approaches, especially the indigenous types. But they've realized that the vaccine is necessary. The AstraZeneca lebesithetha ngayo iproduced by India, and they've vaccinated most of their population, hence the 3 billion. So I would not say agenda pharmaceuticals le, and singaphinda si discuss ngenye imini kakuhle in another forum. So, but I would like to thank everybody who participated, njengoba sowutshilo Mfundisi, and thank you again for bringing me into this this platform. It's been for me also an educational process, because I had to refer and not just take for granted, but I'm active as an activist here, COVID. But I had to also go through some preparation for this. So undincedile ndasusa some cobwebs nalapha kum.
Yeah.
Inkosi kakhulu bantu bakuthi.
Thank you.
Masilwe lento sisonke and do hope. As I said ngelinye ngaphambili kuba mhlambi elichiza likaThixo licebo lakhe ukuba siphume kule nto and sitsho sithi zonke izinto zidalwa nguye kungekho ngentando yakhe bezingenakwenzeka. Masithembe ukuba ultimately we will win this battle. Lifuna thina sonke elidabi. Inkosi kakhulu.
Thank you so much. Mfundisi Makgakane nawe ndingaba ndenze impazamo yokuba ndingavala ndingabulelanga kuwe. I was raised by a wise man, Mfundisi Uqhaphile. He used to say, Thapazana, you must use your internal resources. So uyothatha amagqirha ngaphandle ushiya wasendlini. So today I was doing only that, to use amagqirha walapha ukunyanga thina before we can go out to the world. Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you, Mfundisi Makgakane. Till we meet again next week, Wednesday, 8 p.m. We always have this platform, but next week we'll be celebrating women. We'll have different topics about women. Thank you so much. Mfundisi Kupanya ukhona? Usivalile ngomthandazo. Sleep well, bazalwane. I give you peace, not as the world gives. Ndizinika uxolo lana phakade, kana phakade. Amen. Mfundisi Kupanya, are you here?
Ndikhona mfundisi mandi thabathela ithuba ndibulise ko Professor Tom nako Professor bonke abakhoyo abafundisi Dr. bonke abakhoyo naye wonke umuntu okhoyo kule platform ngalilanga ngelimini sibulela kakhulu. Ndibulisa ngale ncwadi yeNdumiso 90 pha ku verse 17 ithi ubumnandi bukaYehova mabube phezu kwethu. Enkosi kakhulu ngale vuselelo usenzele yona ingakanana satsho nathi bese sicimba siyadoja sicimba siyayiphepha olugonyo kodwa sanamandla ukuthi masiyaleza abantu bethu ukuthi bahambe bayokugonywa. Hambani bantu bam ningene ezigontsini zenu nivale ingcango zenu ngasemva kwenu nizimele umzuzwana kude kudlule ukubavuma. Enkosi Thixo wethu, enkosi mzali, naba bantu bakho somandla, Thixo ingcwele, wabathumela Thixo namandla amakhulu kwesizwe sethu. Wabathumela Thixo namandla amakhulu uthi singaqondi Nkosi namandla onke. Bese sicimba Thixo siyabulawa somandla. Saphelelwa ngamathemba, bamka abantu bethu Thixo ingcwele. Singayazi ba masibheke phi na Thixo wethu sibangakukhonza sicela amaxolo. Kodwa wena Thixo wethu wathi bumile ungithixo. Wathi uyasiva nangalomzuzu. Wathumela abantu bakho mnini wezinto zonke bazosigayida basixelele ba ukhona uThixo nangalixesha nangalomzuzu Thixo namandla amakhulu. Wathumela umfundisi ungalwana ukuze aqokelela abantu bakho Thixo ingcwele. Asinike ithemba Thixo wethu ba xa besikhalaza sisithi naba bantu bethu besiyovaksinwa kodwa babuya begevezela amadolo. Bebuya Nkosi Thixo wethu bedangele. Bebuya bephelelwe ngamandla masolungileyo kodwa uyasiphakamisa uprofessor apha. Uyasixelela umdala wethu uthi hayi phakamani into ekhoyo lena. Nizawuphinda nomelele nime nimkhonza uThixo niye ngoba elento eyenziwayo ngamalinge namatile okuphilisa umuntu endinguye. Siyabulela Thixo namandla onke ngale mvuselelo ingaka ngalemva kwemini. Enkosi Thixo wethu ngalokuxesha senzele Thixo wethu inceba masolungileyo siphilise Thixo enhliziyweni enyameni. Siphilise engqondweni Thixo khona ukuze isizwe sikhoyo Thixo sibe namandla Thixo somelele masolungileyo. Siyakucela Thixo sikuyaleza Nkosi xhasa somandla abantu Thixo babeke emehlweni Thixo ngcwele sithembele kubo. Sibambele ebantwini ngoku Thixo wethu sisithi mabasihlangule ngoba sisebubini Thixo kweliseleli lizwe Nkosi namandla onke. Bambi Thixo wethu bathembele kubefundisi, bambi Thixo ngcwele bathembele koogqirha Thixo wethu. Sihambe sifuna abantu Nkosi Thixo ingcwele bokubambelela khona ukuze sibe nokuphila Thixo namandla onke ngoba lento ayibonakali Thixo ingcwele kodwa iyamgqiba umuntu ondinguye Thixo nakaloku njena. Siyabulela Thixo wethu ngale mfundiso senzole yona ngelanga. Sithe Nkosi mzali, Nkosi Thixo wethu. Wanga Nkosi ungasomeleza usipha amandla ngakumbi. Usandisela ulwazi Thixo ubulumko, Thixo ingcwele. Sithembele kuwe nakaloku njena Nkosi enamandla onke. Sikhulule Thixo wethu naxa sawulala somandla ube nathi. Usifihle Thixo usigcine. Ulizwe ilanga langomso Thixo libe nokuba nobuqaqawuli kuthi Thixo ingcwele. Sithembele kuwe masulungileyo ngamaxesha onke. Lwangufefele Nkosi yethu Yesu Kristu uthando lukaThixo uyise. Udlelwane bomoya ingcwele lingahlala nathi sonke edekweni naphakade. Amen.
Amen. Nkosi Mfundisi. If you want the recordings, go to the YouTube Tembazana Ngalwana. You'll get the recordings there. Good night. Keep well.
Thank you.
Thank you.